I think our very first call, I shared this and thought it was worth repeating that, a lot of people during this time are struggling with depression, that have already struggled with depression. Those that don't normally struggle with depression are struggling with depression and feeling down. And a really good friend of mine was saying, I was dwelling so much in my mind about all the things I couldn't do, that it was getting me down, or how the things I have to do differently that I don't want to do differently is getting me down. And he said, it's like something just shifted in my mind where I thought I should write down a list of everything I can do. And there was something about that mental process and that physical process of writing the list of here's everything I can do. I can go for a walk in the park. I can invite a friend. I can drink a White Claw while I walk through the park with my friend, or two, or three if I bring my cooler with me, and then I'm like, that's on the list. I can go golfing, well, either by myself or with a friend in two separate carts, or we walk. And, I thought that was pretty powerful. And he's like, after I went through that exercise of writing the list of here's everything I can do, it's like my whole mind just shifted to not be focusing on what I can't do anymore and my loss, and it had me focusing on my gain. And so I was reminded of that. It just kind of popped in my mind this morning as I was kind of struggling through some things. And I was like, you know what? I need to go golf because I can golf. That's something I can do. So if that's encouraging for anyone on the call, I just thought I would share that. And with that, we wanted to, yeah.
Hey, Jamie, can I add something to that, please?
Yes, of course.
That mindset is everything now. And I have been on countless calls with individuals, and the thing about mindset is, for me, what I did is started to renew my mind every day. So like, it's the same thing I tell people about weight. If you're trying to lose 50 pounds, that seems like heavy. That's a lot. But if you work on the first 5 and then the next 5 and then the next. So when they move the order every time, it does something, for your emotion. So we thinking about in Illinois, May 30th, but I'm just thinking about every morning. I get up, I pray, I meditate, I take a walk. So I try to block my calendar to be able to get some time in for myself, listen to music, dance, like get those endorphins going, because the thing about it is we're all experiencing this together, and you can do a lot of things, honestly. I go for a drive. I'll drop my top and just go riding. And, so just find those things that you enjoy doing and don't dwell on what you don't have. And I'll tell you, I've been on a lot of state of the what's going on. A lot of people have been displaced from their housing. They don't have food. They don't have transportation. So everyone on this call, I can honestly say, is blessed to have, like, you're still operating your businesses and still functioning the same way. A lot of people are hurting, you guys. And that thought makes me say, you better not be ungrateful right now, because things get worse. So that's just my 2 cents for that. But
no, thanks for jumping in, Coach Melody. That's definitely awesome. And so, what we wanted to focus on today, because really, up until this point, we've been trying to tackle, like, what are our fears and the toughest things we're going through right now with financials, with business, with our people, with our clients. How do we stay connected with clients? How do we grow our business? Even in this midst where people aren't growing or they're scared to grow. And we also thought, it's good to take a step back and focus on what some people would call the softer things, although they're very not soft, like conflict resolution or growth mindset, which is next week, I believe. In conflict resolution during this time, it's interesting. And I thought it was really clever, actually. I think he was talking to Kim. She had said something about, like, well, how do you negotiating for your desk space at home, right? It's like, it's a very real thing that everybody's going through. Who gets the office at the house versus who has to work out of the bedroom? Or our poor web developer is working out of literally a closet that's not a walk-in closet. It's like the kind that accordion doors out, and back in. He turns his video on and we can see his kids, like, Halloween costumes hanging in the background. Poor guy, it's dark. There's no lighting in the closet. It's an accordion door closet. And so we thought, you know what, let's focus one of our weekly calls specifically on conflict resolution. Kim, as a mediator, is on to kind of offer her input and some advice. And we were treating these very much as a collaborative conversation because there's so much education out there and formal webinars. And this is us just talking about what we're going through. But we like to invite people on the call that have some experience and are thought leaders and knowledge experts. And so I'm grateful to have Kim's input every week, but especially even this week, talking about from a mediation and conflict resolution perspective. And also we have Dr. Brett Linden on our call too, who's a licensed therapist, to kind of offer some other solutions and ideas. And so I thought a good place to start would be, let's sort of talk about some of the conflicts that we're actually having. And to me, this is not just personal, right, about who gets the desk space, but just this morning I was talking to a client that's like, how do I communicate effectively with my associate who's not billing what they should be billing? They have enough work available. They're struggling like everybody else, but they're not getting it like we are. We don't have a business if you don't bill. And I want to be gracious, and you've got 3 kids at home. We've all got this situation, but that means you have to wake up early and work maybe a little bit later, or work on a Saturday, and those things. So it's just as much professional as it is personal. So let's start there. I'd love for people to be transparent and vulnerable and just share what sort of situations have you been dealing with that are really challenging and inciting some conflict. Anyone want to jump in and share first?
Jamie, I have to jump off here in about 10 minutes, so I'm happy to go first if that's helpful and get the conversation ball rolling. And I'll start with personal, and it is simply that I'm struggling with my 3 kids, right? They're 12, 11, and the struggle is trying to get all of the remote learning in, right? Get it all done, be the taskmaster. And I can't take all the credit. I have a great nanny who's still with us, who's been helping, right? But still the taskmaster, help them through all of their educational struggles, but also, they're all struggling with the lack of socialization, right? They're not seeing their friends, they miss their friends. And there is so much uncertainty in their lives right now, like more uncertainty than they've ever had. I joke that I've said, I don't know to my kids more in the last 6 or so weeks than in their entire lives combined, right? Because we just don't know. I don't know when they're going back to school. I don't know what school is going to look like. I don't know when school is going to end. Yeah. I don't know when they're going to get to see their friends again. I don't know when they're going to get to go to the movies again. I don't know when we're going to get to go to the mall again. I mean, these are all questions, right? And so, that's been, from a confrontation or struggle perspective, that's been a good one, or a tough one for me, and maybe a good one to throw out to the group.
Yeah, that's really good. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's dealing with family is really difficult. The particular type of stresses that we are undergoing right now, you can take long-term repetitive stress to a certain extent, but this uncertainty is particularly stressful. And I've been on a number of calls because of my well-being and MOLAP duties and all that. What you mentioned with respect to gratitude list, meditation, those are probably the 2 biggest things you can do for yourself. I look at it as when I snap at my wife or my daughter or something, it happens. I try to go out and take a walk or do something to, get outside and do something for myself, besides just, the daily meditation and all that, but, trying to get a little exercise, trying to get a little outside time, trying to get a little alone time, all those things that you should be doing anyway. And and I want to mention again that MOLAP is still available. It's free and it's confidential.
And I think too, I found that giving my kids extra things to do, things that they wouldn't normally get to do, there's so many of those. Like if I know, I mean, some days I've been working like 14 hours because I've been really busy. And then other days I'll have like a hole in my day and I'm like, we could take a picnic. And they've been connecting with more people on our street, even people that aren't their ages. We've started kind of an informal thing on our street where the kids get to go outside and play after dinner, and they can't play with each other, but they can ride a skateboard or do stuff that normally would never happen on a school night. So they're kind of getting excited about some of that stuff that they're getting to do that's extra. And I think it is, being outside is something we can do. A friend of mine who, she works as like an outdoor educator. She's put together a list, and I can put it on my website, but for my patients, of hikes that aren't that populated, because some of the hikes are really busy. And so I think it's kind of fun to, and I realize you can even go on a hike after work some days if you're going to get off early, now that it's staying light. But my kids find that so exciting because we would never do that on a school night.
Yeah, that's good.
Sarah, I was walking in the neighborhood the other day, and some kids had taken chalk and they wrote a question on their driveway, and then they had two answers, you know, with circles around them. And then as you walked by, you picked up a rock and answered the survey, you know, by putting your rock. Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's so
And
cute.
it was, I think it
that.
was, the question was, which superpower would you rather have? And I think one was like ability to be invisible, and the other was talk to animals, or I don't know. You know, they were crazy. And as you watch, and then they had they had rocks available, but
Yeah.
then they also, I mean, I guess you could pick up your own rock. I don't know. But it was so cute to see like what people were answering, and they had lawn chairs set up, and they were watching, you know, like how you'd answer, and you could talk. But I don't know. I mean, if it's warm enough to be outside, maybe something crazy like that.
Yeah, those are both great suggestions. We love to be outside, and I think that's the saving grace right now for so many of us. You know, if this had happened in January, I think all of our mental health would be in serious jeopardy, right? So thank God we can still get outside and try to, you know, do as much as we can. And I love that idea. We've been doing a lot of sidewalk chalk art, but the idea of a question and making it interactive, I have, you know, such an awesome neighborhood. The street that I live on, the people are, they're out with their dogs, and and so they would think I love that, because it gives the kids something cool to do, but it gives everyone who's walking by a little bit of a lift too, when they get to make that choice or do that thing. So yeah, thanks for sharing. That's awesome.
And I think there's something too, have you guys seen in the Central West Inn, somebody painted little signs of things to do?
Oh no, I
It's
haven't
like they're just right around. If you start kind of like on Euclid, you can see them, but they're just around. And they say little things like, see how long it takes for you to skip this far, or find a pretty flower to smell, but they're fun for the kids.
Well, that's cute.
I think that conflict resolution, I really struggled with in the beginning, and I think a lot of couples are struggling with this, is the negotiation around who works when, you know, and how and where, you know. So when you've got, you know, two spouses working in the same household that can't go anywhere, right? They have to work in the home, and there's the kids, and the negotiation process around whose job is more important than the other one's, or, you know, I need an office where the door closes versus the closet, you know, versus the monitor or the formal desk, or. So I was going to throw that one out there, because I know I've been struggling with that. We don't have an office at our house where the door actually closes. It's just out in the middle of a whole like living sitting area. And when you've got 4 kids constantly going up and down the stairs, I mean, it's just incredibly distracting. So I was going to throw that one out there that we can, get some ideas and talk through too. But, what are some good ways to go through that negotiation process and, resolving the conflict with, because I think it's easy to fall into with a significant other, my job's more important than yours, or certainly, you're a teacher, you shouldn't have that much to do. Like, you should be managing the entire schooling process, or, whatever it is. So that's the one I was going to throw out there as a major conflict in a lot of households across the globe.
Well, my solution, I'm sorry.
No, go on.
So my solution to part of it is a combination of partly what we've been talking about, and that is working outside. Because even though like our playgrounds are shut down at the parks, a lot of the benches and the picnic tables are not, and nobody's really using them. So, on the night, certainly in the afternoons, a lot of the afternoons I've been able to do that and and I plan for a little bit, which of course gives you something else to do, just the planning part of it. And, it gives you that, control, if you will, too. And I usually, work in a walk or a run or something at the same time. But it's a good way to go do that and put it all together and have something to do. So I am.
That's great advice.
Randy, that's a great suggestion. One thing that we've done, my office is a bit like Jamie's. It's open. And if I'm on a call or a mediation or something, I need the rest of the house to be quiet. So we have some headphones. And I know when other people who are living here, because I do have 3 other people living here, are watching TV, they're using headphones. And that way they can listen to whatever they're doing, but it's still quiet for me. So I don't know. I mean, that's one accommodation we've made is now you watch TV if somebody's working with headphones.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. Yesterday I was home by myself with the kids and had my headphones in, and I thought I had gotten them all settled, but those little kids, man, they just know how to sniff you out no matter where you are in the house. I was like hiding in a bedroom, with the lights off on a call, and still ended up, with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old pouncing on top of me. And I guess if I'm thinking about the things you can do or the things we're grateful for in terms of mindset, it's that we're all in this together, and the person on the other line didn't care at all that there was a little giggle of a 2-year-old in the background or the barking of a dog. This was real. I'm 38 years old and I've never heard this before in my life, but I thought it was really clever. When my dog barked, this guy said, "Oh, you know what I call that? A doorbell with 4 legs." And I was like, I've never heard that before in my life. And that was incredibly clever.
Go ahead, Judy.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
Oh no, I think it's been fun to just try to flip it into a positive. I've enjoyed getting to see, with my patients, getting to see different parts of their lives, or, meet their pets or meet their kids, even though it seems like a distraction. It can really be a positive, because I think, this kind of sterilized world is great, but I think this is a forced excuse to step outside of that, and it can make a deeper connection. And I think the way that we handle things when we have interruptions also, that's what people are really judging us on. The kids, everybody knows that sometimes those things can't be controlled for various reasons.
Yep. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time. I mean, I definitely have had the same thing. I don't have kids running around, but my cat has made an appearance in almost every video that I've done for clients, personal, whatever. I think you've all met Ginger. So, but it's kind of made it, it's added that instead of how's the weather, how was your weekend? It's kind of like coronavirus update, which isn't the lightest, but it's fun stuff that we can all relate to. Like, I've seen more attorneys wearing T-shirts than I have in my entire life just over these Zoom chats. Like, I've seen attorneys that are very buttoned up in very informal ways. So it's kind of, while you might get that at some conferences and events, you just don't get that in a professional environment as much. So it's been interesting to get to know people in that personal way, but it's also, I feel like for myself and coworkers, it's been, we've been in a majority virtual workplace, but it's also been learning how to communicate like effectively in team meetings, or how to be like most effective over team meetings virtually. It's been interesting because I feel like I was really excited to hear about this topic, conflict resolution, but I realized I am home alone. And so my only conflicts are really internal and with myself and self-motivating. And then conflicts that I have kind of dealing with folks who aren't as tech savvy, or clients who aren't as tech savvy, trying to still be professional while like leveling them up and deciding what my time is worth in that, scenario.
Sarah, I'm so glad you brought that up. That was a topic actually I wanted to talk about, because nobody wants to admit, or at least lawyers, like a lot of people, don't like to admit, gee, I'm an idiot and I don't know anything about Zoom. Can you help me? And, as a mediator and an arbitrator, trying to convince lawyers and their clients that it's worth paying, a whole lot of money, because it's expensive, to do this virtually is tough, because they don't want to say, gee, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to maneuver through the technology of it. And, I kind of put myself in that category. I'm not techie. I mean, I do okay, but I'm not super techie. And to be soft in helping people feel comfortable, learning a new way to do something, and learning a new way to use the technology in a positive way. And I think you have to be so open to that in conflict resolution. And it's something to think about in the back of your mind. Are they saying no because, like I had mentioned to Jamie, I wanted to show you guys how breakout rooms work. I didn't know if everybody had ever used them before, but they're kind of cool. And I use them a lot in mediations and arbitrations, more in mediations. But you have to be able to just be soft and inviting in that technology. And it's really hard, I think, virtually to do that, but be aware of that when you're dealing with people on using Zoom or using this. It's intimidating,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the meeting room functionality, or the breakout rooms is really easy to use when you're using Zoom. And what I didn't realize is that it is an available feature even for the free version of Zoom, but you have to go into your settings online to your Zoom account to activate it. You have to like check a box that says, yes, enable breakout rooms. And did you want to show people how to do that, Kim? Showing
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I thought I'd show you guys. So Jamie has kindly made me a co-host so I can set up breakout rooms. And I think what I'm going to do is, it takes me a minute to do that. So while I'm doing it, talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. Anybody else? Challenges, conflicts? Mike, you want to jump in?
I have one also. Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead.
Okay. The conflict for me, I don't have, it's just my husband and I, my sons are in college, therefore that's not a problem, but it was boundaries. I have for the last week been doing a lot of talk around that, because as business owners, for example, not getting off at a reasonable time, working all day and all night and through the weekend. And it's funny because I did a couple of talks this week and I looked up, I said, this is me. Therefore, I've created a time to get off unless it's there's something urgent. And then this was the first weekend since COVID that I took the entire weekend off to do exactly what I wanted to do. And the boundaries are hard because we are like really passionate about what we are doing from a work standpoint, but our mind needs to be free. And I had so many projects that I'm always thinking about it, which is helping. So I just had to try to calm me down and setting boundaries and talking to a lot of other people. They're working, looking at emails all day, walking past the computer looking, and it just never gives us a sense of getting off. So a lot of people working longer hours than they were before COVID.
Yeah.
Boundaries are very important for everybody.
Hey, Jamie, I am not able to set them up, so I'm going to ask you to do that.
Okay, I can do that. Let's, Mike, you want to jump in and share real quick, and then we can show you guys how to do that?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on kind of what's been said, that obviously one of the big topics of this whole process has been what's essential, right? I mean, we hear it from the stay-at-home orders, but we've kind of all talked about it, what's really essential in our day-to-day lives. And sometimes a coat closet as a background is good enough, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And Kim, to your point, like getting the attorneys comfortable with the idea that it's not essential that they understand the technology 100%, just that they use it for their clients. I mean, that's the core of what we're doing. So really evaluating what's essential, and then when this is all over, what's worth going back to.
I love that. And I want the attorneys and the clients to know, okay, I'm calling myself the Yoda of Zoom because I've done it so much now. I feel pretty good on it. But I want them to feel confident that, yeah, they don't need to be an expert on it. I can manipulate it enough to make it work. And I've had everything happen with one exception. I have not had a troll come in and put porn up on my screen. My kids have, but I have not. And I think that's because I'm really strict on my security settings. But I've had almost everything happen. I mean, including somebody who, this was interesting, you guys, you might like this. I had a Zoom where one of the parties said, I want to call in. I don't want to participate with video because I can't stand the sight of that other guy. And that happens in lawsuits. Sometimes they're so mad at the other person, they don't want to be in the same room with them. She didn't even want to see his face on a screen. All right. So we Zoomed. She called in. And so every time, that she spoke, a telephone popped up on the screen rather than her face. And we did a 5-hour arbitration with her calling in, and she never had to see his face. We never saw her face. And, that was pretty cool. I mean, I remember having plenty of clients say to me, I'm scared to give my deposition. I don't want to walk in that conference room and see, John Doe across the table. He's the one that sexually harassed me, or, he's the one who did whatever to me. So it was kind of cool. Like, all right, Zoom allowed us not only to move forward, but maybe to move forward in a way that made her more comfortable.
Yeah, and I would follow up on that. Zoom also is, not everybody's set up to do conference calls. You can do conference calls just that way with Zoom. And yeah. So, there are a number of, actually, some judges I know who have very limited lines coming in to their courthouse, and they can't take them up, particularly if there's, for the counties where there are several of them working at a time. And I had suggested to one of them, I said, well, just use Zoom, because I knew they had a Zoom account. Mm-hmm. And I think they've started to do that. So, if I'm in the office, it works fine. We have a conference bridge here, but if I had to set up a conference call outside of the office, I would just use Zoom for it, I think.
And I hope that moving forward, I love that example that you shared, Kim, because I think for my patients with anxiety, sometimes court cases are one of the biggest fear producing, and it's just the act of going in. And we've been using telemedicine for a long time to reach people that are too scared to make that initial visit into the office, that are just too frightened or don't have access. And I think, why not use it for people that are also scared? You can get the exact same results, but it would be such an empowering tool if people had that option. They may not even want to use it, but when you have the choice of doing something, it feels like you're so much more able to cope with it. And if you decide to go in, that's your choice.
I love that. I mean, we talk about that so often. Having the choice, it makes such a big difference. You don't have to do this. You might choose to still give your deposition in person or to hold your arbitration in person, but you know, it could be a choice, and that's very empowering.
What about, I am curious because I think so many people end up in this situation, and people that might watch this recording afterwards. How would you advise, Kim or Dr. Britt or both of you, how would you advise, you know, a law firm owner that's really struggling with people not meeting expectations? You know, so we're all going through this tough time. Like, what's that balance of resolving the tension and the conflict, you know, professionally, and what's expected, even with some grace in there, right? Like, even with some grace, but it's a very real thing. You know, your business can't keep moving forward if you don't have income, and you get income by doing work. So if people aren't doing the work, and you know, we've got, obviously, this is it's not like taking away the patience and the grace and the mercy and the flexibility. That's all there, right? How would you advise a law partner or a law firm owner that's struggling, or really any business owner, with poor performance during this time in a way that is productive and not, you know, I mean, we're all adults, right? So I don't know, what kind of advice would you give in that scenario that both balances the acknowledgement of the situation, but then, you know, the setting of expectations going forward? You guys have any thoughts on that?
I do.
Easy button? You have an easy button you could mail all of us?
Yeah, right. You know, I think we all have this expectation, you know, that if I bring up your lack of hours that you billed last week, you're going to get mad. You're going to be upset by that. I'm anticipating how you're going to respond. And I might be right, but I also might be wrong. And I think so often we hesitate talking about the elephant in the room because we think we know how everybody's going to react. And really, we don't know how they're going to react. I mean, I step back and think about that. I cannot know with certainty how you're going to react. So if I bring up the fact that you billed fewer hours last week, you might be relieved that I brought it up. I mean, you might say, yeah, it was a tough week. I didn't want to bring it up, but my son, you know, spiked a high temperature and we were so worried. I think I'm going to be able to get XYZ done this week. Or maybe they're like, yeah, I'm super depressed and need a unpaid leave of absence. I don't know, but to try to, I think, address the elephant in the room head on and remind yourself that you don't know how they're going to react.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think too, just sometimes when, you know, you're going through these situations, it seems like I oftentimes have, you know, patients that are, along the lines of Kim said, scared to confront. And I think because it implies that you're being indelicate to the situation, it really doesn't. And I think if you can even approach it with like, how can I help? I noticed you didn't, you know, meet these hours. Sometimes it's a simple thing of like, yeah, I'm depressed. And you can even say, would it help if I called you every morning to get you going, like to kind of set an agenda for the day? Would it help if you had a week off unpaid and then started fresh to get your, like, you can start to say, what could I do to help this situation? You know, given that everybody's doing a little bit more, but sometimes it just, even the gesture that you're offering, somebody's like, no, I don't need that. I can do this and that. It feels so collaborative, and these times are difficult, but I think sometimes the emotional state that somebody is in really does make them so exhausted that it's hard to get that momentum. And sometimes an external push is not a bad thing.
That's a really good point too. And you know, the client I was talking to this morning that was in this situation, it was interesting because one of the things that did come up with the lawyer was actual conflict with the spouse, right? So the lawyers in conflict with the associates and in conflict with, their spouse over the working hours, because it's that, like, who's got what responsibilities on what days. And there just being not much communication at all, and being assumptions being made. And I definitely did that. The first week and a half we were kind of into the stay home order was incredibly frustrating for my family, for me. And I think one of my big lessons learned was kind of what you said, Kim, like just call the elephant out into the room, was we weren't communicating at all. And we were just making assumptions. And once we started communicating, that's when we started getting more clarity and less conflict. Because then while it may not be perfect, it's at least clear who's using the office on what day, who's going to the office on what day.
And Amy, write it down.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Monday, I'm going to work from 6 a.m. to noon, and you're going to take the noon to 6 p.m. shift or whatever. Write it down and be very transparent in what those expectations are.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah,
Here, I have a list of movies, people, because we're fighting over what we're watching on TV at night. I'm not kidding you. Movies we want to watch, movies we have watched.
I love that. That's just like such a good point, because like that is going on in my house a little bit. Even though we've got multiple TVs, it's like we kind of want everyone to be together as a family, because we're not together intentionally as a family. And about the shows, which show we're going to watch on which night, and if we're watching it together but someone else wants to do something else, are you okay if we watch it even if you don't want to watch it? Because then you have to catch up, because sometimes there's hurt feelings over you watched it without me, sort of thing. And I like that. Even like kind of, and we make a schedule for our meals right now because it just makes our life easier. And my family's never done that before. We've never done meal planning before. And we do it now, and it makes life easier. I don't have to think every time, like, okay, well, what am I going to cook right now? Or what am I going to cook tonight? It's already decided. Why not have an entertainment schedule too?
Yeah.
Rigid, of course, but I like that. Like, here's a schedule, and that's really good advice. Cut down on the fighting over what we're going to be doing for entertainment. I like that.
And it also, part of it is we need to put structure in our days, because our day is, there's nothing to look forward to. So if you can put some structure in your day. So we have movie night, not every single night, but almost every night. And around 7, 8 o'clock at night, it's like, okay, here's the list of movies. What are we going to watch tonight? And yeah, if you want to step out, you can step out. But it has been a really fun thing for us to do together and to talk about, we watched Matrix. Do we want to watch Matrix too?
Sure. No, that's awesome. Well, let's start to wrap up a little bit here. This has been great. I just love how every week someone shares something that kind of inspires me, or I kind of walk away thinking, oh, that's a really good idea. Like, I'm going to do that too, or gaining that like extra energy or motivation for something. So I want to like move to wrap up, and I want to show everyone how to do the breakout rooms thing. But let's do, just in case, because I'll explain the breakout rooms technology, but I want to take the time to ask, does anybody have a joke, a limerick, a funny meme related to coronavirus or anything else? Remember, I'm like fun, positive compliment sandwich sort of girl. So start off with good things and end with some good things. Anybody have anything?
I saved a meme last Thursday for this occasion, but it's now been a whole week of me saving memes on my devices. So let me see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, well, I always come prepared and have one just in case for this very reason. And you all are gonna love it, I think, because it's lawyer related, but now it's not Corona related.
Oh, here.
But it's lawyer related, and maybe you've already seen it before, and it's just new to me. But I'll pull it up and show you guys. But this was a picture on Instagram. I follow lawyers of Instagram. I don't know if you guys do.
Oh yeah.
And the other, I don't know about you guys. Anyone who follows lawyers of Instagram makes you think lawyers are just all these really hot, thin women. Have you noticed that? Or maybe it's, I'm like, or maybe it's
We are. Come on.
maybe it's the Instagram like coding or something, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Algorithm.
Like, algorithms. There's something in Instagram's algorithms that these like really amazing looking women are all the lawyers that show up in the lawyers of Instagram feed. Or
Do you think
really, like,
Instagram is for
lawyers,
really attractive women?
yes, lawyers of Instagram from all over the world, and like buff guys, lawyers of Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, most of the lawyers I know, there's some really beautiful people, lawyers that I know, but this is the only people that show up in lawyers of Instagram are like these beautiful people. Okay, here, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see this. Can you see it? I thought that was pretty good. Of course, I noticed it because this showed up in the lawyers of Instagram feed, and I was like, "Oh, it's not a hot blonde." If your lawyer's pants look like this, you're going to jail.
I found my meme, Jamie.
Oh, good. Okay, you could share your.
Okay,
screen.
so I think you've all seen a lot of face mask fails, probably out in the wild and maybe online. I've seen people just literally looking like they're trying to strangulate themselves, possibly with a plastic bag tied around their face. But this one was due to a typo in the news about what types of things could be used for face masks. But bananas were acceptable. And so I think I like the third option for how to use the banana properly as a face mask. But there's a lot of great memes out there on alternative face mask and shopping wear. So this one made me laugh a lot.
That is really cute. Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
So use your bananas next time you go to the grocery store.
Here's what I'm gonna try to do, but I'm not sure if it will work. We'll do it, but we'll try it anyway. Can you guys actually see my Zoom screen or no?
I could.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Yep.
see, wow, it's like layers of Zoom people. So
Yes.
Right? Because I want to show you how to do. Okay, here, maybe this will work. Can you see this little?
bank balance.
It's the Zoom. Oh no, not my bank balance. Although it's pretty low. If you guys want to send me some money, you're welcome to. Can you see my my toolbar here for Zoom?
No, we just see your blue. I think you're probably on your second screen.
I am, but I'm sharing my
Oh,
screen.
now we see. Yeah, now we
Yeah.
see Zoom.
Yes.
Okay.
Jamie, I didn't have time to get your bank account number. Could you put that back up?
It's not my number, it's just my balance. So whenever you're in Zoom and you have enabled breakout rooms, the toolbar that you usually would click on to share your video or unmute yourself or mute yourself, that toolbar is actually going to have a little button that you guys can't see. Apparently, it doesn't work whenever I can screenshot it, and we can include the screenshot in the follow-up materials. But it says breakout rooms right next to reactions and recording, start or stop a recording. And it's 4 white little boxes. So when I click on breakout rooms, what it's going to do is it knows that we've got 8 participants here, and you can select how many rooms you want. So if I do 2 rooms, it'll either automatically just take 4 of you randomly and put you in one, and 4 of you randomly and put you in the other. Or you can click on manually, and you can put people in the rooms you want them to be in. So if you've got like a facilitator that needs to be in a particular room, then you can do that. So I want to do it real quick just so you guys can see what it looks like, because this is really helpful.
Yeah.
Especially, I think if you're in a bigger group or even a smaller group that needs to have a private conversation. Of course, they can hang up and get back in, but this kind of helps keep it efficient. So I'm going to do automatically, and I'm going to create the rooms. It'll automatically put you into breakout rooms. Then once you're in the breakout room, there's actually a option to go back to the main room. So if you want to bring people back together, you can bring people back into the main Zoom room. So
Jamie,
I'm sorry?
I was going to ask a question when you were done.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, and you control that. The person who sets up the meeting or the administrator, host controls that. And then within the breakout room, can they talk privately?
Oh, yeah. Well, you'd have to create another breakout room if you wanted people out of that breakout room to talk privately. But if you're not recording, it's all private in the breakout room. So you only see the people that are in the breakout room. You only hear the people that are in the breakout room. And then when you come back together, obviously everybody is there together.
So, I mean, obviously my question is whether or not, essentially an attorney and a client can be in a breakout room and at least have some minimal assurance, at least that, it's private.
Yes. No. You definitely can have private conversations in your breakout room. And then as the mediator comes in and out, you'll get a notice. And I always quickly announce myself that I'm coming in. And it's pretty good. You can also use the chat function. Some mediators will send a chat saying, we'll be in your room in 5 minutes or something like that. But it works nicely. The only thing, Jamie, I would say is if you try to click out of your breakout room, you might leave the Zoom meeting. There's a so just be aware of that. When you leave your breakout room, you might be leaving this whole Zoom meeting, which is okay because we're finished.
Well, that's what I was going to kind of say. This is why I'm doing this last, because if you accidentally click out, it's totally fine. Love you. We'll see you next week. But just for the sake of practice, try to click back into the main room. So then you kind of know how it works and what it looks like. And as the host, I think whatever tools I'm using on Zoom, sometimes you can see them, sometimes you can't. So I shared my screen. It shows create breakout rooms, but I don't know if you guys can see it or not. So I'm going to create the rooms. It'll automatically split you out and then say hello and then see if you can come back in within a couple of seconds. Okay, ready? Here we go.
We're back. Or at least most of meeting room 2 is back.
I made it.
I wonder where break room 1 is.
Well, they might still be chatting.
Maybe they're talking about us.
Oh, good job, breakout room 1. We made it. We all made it back.
All right, we won.
Well, maybe you need to tell breakout room 1 how to get back.
Yeah, because mine is different. I'm on my iPad. And
oh, yeah.
I didn't have that at the bottom. I found the iPad version. I like it better than on my PC, but I had to click the little leave meeting, and then it gave me that option. But it was up in the upper left. So
I bet she's in break room 1. Well, this is cool. I haven't tried the breakout before, but that might be fun to use if we have like a deeper discussion in one of these future meetings or.
Yeah, that's one of the things here where we've been talking about in terms of the courts doing some of this, because that's a major concern is having a confidential conversation with your client if you're going to do it remotely, because if you have to put them together, you're defeating part of the purpose of
Oh, fun. All right. Here we go.
Woo-hoo, we did it. Awesome.
Good job, guys.
Yes, in our first breakout.
Yeah, so that's really, it's a neat functionality that's available at, like I said, for even the free version of Zoom. You just have to enable it in your Zoom account. So hopefully this is helpful, when you're in the middle of, even in like a team meeting internally, or if you're, in a formal mediation and you need to break people out, it's really a pretty neat tool that you can use. So.
And you said you'll send that out in the.
Good seeing everyone.
Follow-up?
Yep. See you later. Yeah, we'll put a little screenshot or some little instructions in there on how to do it and get it.
I'm all right.
Resources
Awesome.
page, so.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone-
Randy, please feel free to call me and I'm happy to chat with you about how it works in practice. That's true for everybody. I have 2 tomorrow. So I've been doing tons. Please feel free to call me. I'm happy to practice.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Dr. Britt. Have a great day, everyone.
Everyone.
Bye.